Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast.
All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. Kevin and Angel here, and we have a episode today for you guys that I think could be super helpful if you actually take this advice and implement it. It's something I've been thinking a lot about recently, and we're going to be talking about sales, and we're going to be talking more specifically about a two-step close and how to use that properly. And yeah, just how to get the most out of your sales process. So just to kind of kick this off, I guess what's been on my mind and what I've been thinking a lot about is I think a lot of times people think that if you're using a two-stage close, so either a initial discovery phone call and then booking them for a in-person consultation, or you're booking them for a Zoom consultation, or even just a second phone call, a lot of times people can look at that, and I fall into this trap myself, of as long as I get the appointment set, as long as I get the sales appointment set, then I did my job, and that's all that needs to be done. But what I always think about is if you do a really good job in the discovery process, you know, that initial phone call and the appointment setting process, then when you get to the actual sales process, the actual sales appointment, it's a lot easier to close that lead because you've already built a good connection and you're not trying to just like, hey, I just met you the other day. I set you for this appointment. Now let's start building that connection. So I think that having like a really good discovery call in the beginning where you learn a lot about them, you know, their dog, not going into, of course, like how to train the dog and how to fix, problem behaviors or anything like that, but just building a good connection. And that way there's a lot of momentum going into that second appointment. So I have a couple thoughts on this that I really want to share. I think that could be helpful. But Angel, what are your thoughts on this? What does this make you think of?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It just makes like that the second portion of the sales process, doing that consultation, actually meeting them in person, just a little bit easier, a little bit smoother, I guess you could say. But then also that initial call is just like getting them excited. Like you want them to be excited and looking forward to meeting you, especially when maybe they've never heard of your company. They just so happen to get in touch with you. If there is any type of wait time, whether it's 2 days or 3 days or 2 weeks, then they could easily be calling other places like looking for training. And I know in my case, I have found certain companies for specific services. Let's use this one company, for example. I used to hire to clean my carpets, and they had the best customer service. They were super personable. It was pretty much always the same person that they were sending out each time. They had multiple people that worked within the company, but I think they like did this very strategically. Like if they sent someone out to clean your carpets, then they would send out that same person the next time. And that just helped build more and more rapport to the point where I remember there was one time I needed my carpets cleaned and they didn't have any availability. So I was thinking like, oh, let me call somewhere else. But I was like, I already had like this relationship established with them. And I almost felt like I was going to be like cheating on this carpet cleaning company. So I waited. It was literally just like a few extra days. But anyways, saying all that to say, like, just having like that really good, like you said, discovery call, just initial conversation with someone, building rapport and kind of like the start of your guys' relationship is super important.
Right. Yeah. And I've tested this in my own business and with clients as well, where when we extend the discovery process a little bit and we change how they do that, all of a sudden their closing rate goes up on the back end, like in their actual sales appointments. And so, I think that's interesting because again, you can fall into the trap if you're doing a 2-call close or a 2-stage close, that as long as I get that sales appointment booked, I'm good. And I did my job in the first portion of it. But we were talking about this before, and the analogy I was using was, like dating. And I think that there's different types of dates that you can go on, right? And if you're somebody who's asking somebody out on a date, I always love when I start giving dating advice on these podcasts, like that's really what this should be
what
about.
do you know?
Yeah, seriously. I've been, dating and married to the same woman for a long time. But anyway, like I think that if you look at it through that lens, there's different types of dates you can go on. There's a date that like you meet somebody and they ask you to go on a date and you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. I'll go out, see what this is all about. Maybe there's a good connection there. Maybe there's not. And then I think there's a date where somebody really sweeps you off your feet and you're really excited for that date and you're looking forward to it all week. And it's like, which date is more likely to succeed and get a second date? Right? Probably the
Mhm.
one where there was already a connection built and you weren't just going into it, feeling it out and seeing what it's going to go like or how it's going to be and stuff like that. And so I think that, that's directly related to your sales process. There's going to be people that are going to have you come out for a consultation just because they're like, yeah, whatever. We'll see what it's all about. It's a free consultation. Let's see how it goes. And if it's good, whatever, maybe we'll think about it. But if not, like, who knows? Versus if they meet somebody and using the example of like you speak to the husband or the wife and they get off the phone and they're like, I've talked to 3 dog trainers today, but this person really stood out. He was so nice. He answered all of our questions. He's coming out on Thursday. Like, I'm really looking forward for you to meet him as well.
Mhm.
And I think that that is the kind of vibe that you want people to have after they get off that phone call with you. Really excited for that next appointment and not just kind of going into it thinking like, we'll see what this is all about. You know what I mean, Angel?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also goes for just like, general communication even in between that initial phone call and the consultation, just depending on like how far out it's scheduled. But when you schedule someone for a consultation, if there's no report rapport already built, then, it might be a lot easier for that person to end up canceling a consultation. Like you just talked about, maybe someone talks to multiple trainers and maybe they all schedule a consultation, but then they have this one trainer that really stands out to them. And they're like, they actually spent the time with me on the phone to ask me questions about our situation and then also answer questions about what we're dealing with. So they were really friendly. Maybe we got off topic about dogs and training in general, and they were just like genuinely interested in like getting to know us. I'm really excited to meet them. And then, they end up canceling maybe the other consultations. So having that rapport built is kind of like getting a little bit of commitment out of them.
Mhm.
They're committed to like actually meeting you and excited for it.
Yeah, and just going back to the dating analogy, because you and I were speaking about this beforehand, it's like if you can get away with asking to somebody to go on a date with you, and if the date is 24 hours later, just showing up at their house, picking them up, and taking them out on the date. But if the
Mhm.
date is 20 days later, right? Like someone's coming in from out of town or something like that, and you say like, "Hey, let's go on a date," and then you don't talk to them for 20 days. That would be kind of weird.
Canceled.
Yeah, like immediately. I don't even know if you're still alive over there. Like just completely went radio silent?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times that is what people do with their consultations in their business is like even a week, 2 weeks, so much can change. And so if you're booking somebody that far out, just sending them a message, something that you think might be helpful for them. That could be like a client success interview that you've done, or like a testimonial, or just like a picture or a video of a dog that you're training or something like that. Just some sort of thing that you can connect with them on, a new
Mhm.
social media post that you did, something like that to make them feel like, oh, there's still some sort of connection here. There's some momentum, not just this clear cutoff. They booked me for this consultation and then I just haven't heard from them ever since. They're not going to be expecting it. That's the thing. It's like, that's why this works so well, is
Mhm.
because when you go out of your way to do something that's unexpected, people are like, wow, I didn't see that coming. That was really kind of them to think of me and send that to me.
Mhm.
That's the stuff that makes you stand out compared to your competitors.
Yeah, and for our clients, what we've been doing is implementing an automation for whenever they do schedule consultations to give the potential client like just more information about them and kind of like here's what to expect in our consultation.
Mhm.
And, even if you don't sign up, this is what you're going to get out of it, along with just like information on their business. So that way, right after the consultation is scheduled, that person who's going to be waiting for the consultation to happen has some stuff to look at, to read, to see photos and videos of dogs in training, currently in training, or have gone through training before, look at reviews and stuff like that. So it's kind of just like giving them a little bit of insight into like you as a company, especially if there's like even photos of you on your social media, they can kind of put like a face to the name or a face to the voice. But yeah, just like giving them something to like look at and, get excited about. What I used to do too is I always would try to relate to like the dog that they had, like the specific breed. So if I had a dog that was currently in training that was the same breed that that person had that I was going to be meeting for a consultation, then I talk about that on the initial phone call. And then later on, after we've scheduled the consult, I might send them a picture of that dog and be like, oh, here's, so and so, they're actually in training right now. Or, I might just, depending on maybe the breed or something like that, I'm like, oh, that sounds really cute. You should send me a picture, just like sounding more interested and finding a way to connect with them. I mean, there's so many different things that you can pick out to connect with them on, but I mean, you're a dog trainer, they need dog training, they have a dog. So like connecting on that in some way, I think is the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Personally, for me, like I think connecting on things even outside of just like the initial reason that they contacted me
Mhm.
is great for a couple different reasons. First and foremost, like let's be honest, it can just be a little bit boring to talk about the same exact 5 things every single day. And I think if that's the only thing that you can connect on is talking about their dog, that's fine. But there's no doubt in my mind that if you can go a little bit deeper and make people feel like, I'm kind of having like more of a friendly conversation, like just a conversation that I would have with a friend, then that's going to be even better.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I just think that a lot of times people can be fearful of like, what if I say something and it's kind of like off topic or inappropriate or something like that? Like, you're going to know the difference and you're going to be able to pick up on the cues. But I have conversations with people all the time about stuff that is totally outside of the scope
Mhm.
of dog training, marketing, and stuff like that.
Yep,
And
we all
frankly,
know
it's just
that.
like, it's just like more it's more it makes the job more fun. If I used to
Yeah.
talk about the same 5 things over and over and over, it's like, okay, this starts becoming a little bit painful. So maybe it's a little bit self-absorbed in a way, but I don't know. That's just how I tend to
But
do it.
people appreciate it, I think.
Yeah. Exactly. When you meet somebody who's interesting and seems interested in other things in your life, again, that's the type of thing that's going to make you stand out versus your competitors.
Yeah.
Instead of just you being the guy who's just another person of one of the 5 trainers you spoke to where, he asked me this, he told me to do this with my dog, then we did this. It's like, yeah, that can work. Or, I had this connection with this guy where we both realized like our mom went to the same high school or something like that. And like we were laughing about that. Totally random, but like you're going to stand out more than, the other 4 people who just did the same exact spiel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What are you trying to say, by the way? Like that I'm like
It's not a bad
ADD
thing.
and yeah. Yeah, no, everyone in this company has made a remark to me at one point or another. My favorite was one of our media buyers, when you were kind enough to put together like that video for like National Bosses Day and stuff like that. And he's like, one of my favorite things about Kevin is when he tells me that he wants to get on a quick call, and then that quick call is 2.5 hours.
I remember on that note, I believe that the first national or the first gift that I gave you for National Bosses Day, like the whole
Mhm.
list, I'm pretty sure on there it says like it was something that you quoted that was like I'll really quick tell you this quick story, even though I've never told a quick story in my life, and
Pretty much.
proceeds to tell me like the entire detailed version.
Yeah, I'm like giving you like, the prequel information as well, like I'm giving you like every single piece of information you could possibly need to understand this.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's back here somewhere. But you know what's funny about that? I feel like I'd have to revisit that. I'd have to revisit that list of, for anyone who's watching this who doesn't know what we're talking about. Angel gave me a list of like my most commonly used phrases, I
that I
guess.
that I compiled over the course of an entire year.
Yeah, stuff like "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater" or "Penny wise and pound foolish," stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I don't even do I still talk like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I thought maybe I stopped talking. I thought maybe you shamed that out of me and I don't talk
No.
like that anymore. Are there any new ones that you think should be added to the list that I've said recently?
I don't know about recently. There at one point was a time when I was starting to compile 2.0
Oh, wow.
and it just got out of control. Like I can't keep up. I'm sure I still have that list somewhere, but yeah, they were new ones that could be added to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
list.
Well, what's so funny is like, once that was pointed out to me, I realized like listening to just other people in my life, like my parents, I'm like, oh, that's where I get this from. That's why I
Yeah.
talk like that, is because I just sound like my dad.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is one day he came over to our house and he came up here into my office and I was showing him that list and he was reading through it and he was laughing. And I was like, yeah, like, I don't know why this is so funny that, that I talk like this. And he's like, I see nothing wrong with saying these phrases.
What's
He's
wrong with
like, these are
this?
totally normal. He's like, these are totally normal phrases to use,
That's
So
funny.
funny. But anyway, just kind of getting back to the topic at hand. Yeah, I think that what I'm really trying to get across here is all of your sales process is going to be interconnected and treating it like they're two different parts. I have my discovery phone call and then I have my actual consultation where I close them is not the right way to look at it. And I've made this mistake, and this is the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I've had to learn this lesson the hard way, that it's got to be one seamless process all the way through. And it's got to feel like it's connected and not disjointed. You want people to going from one call to the next appointment excited and looking forward to it. And a good way to do this, also, if you have like somebody who's like an office manager for you, as cringy as this may sound, you want to tell them to like hype you up too, when like you're going to be the one doing the actual closing, the actual consultation, and they're just doing the initial discovery, first touch point type of phone call. You want them to, like, at the time when they're doing the handoff, so when they're going to be like, hey, you're going to meet with Steve, he's the owner of the business, he's going to be the one coming out to your house to do the consultation. You want to coach them to say things like, you guys are going to love him. He's such a great trainer. He's like a magician when it comes to working with dogs. He's going to go over everything with you guys. And as cringy as that may seem to have to tell your team to talk about you in that way, it works really well. Because even if you're just subliminally planting these ideas in like the dog owner's head, it just works, saying like they start thinking to themselves like, "Ooh, who am I meeting with here?" And somebody applies a label to you of like, he's a nice guy, he's super sweet, then they're expecting that when you come out, and they almost like view you in that lens. And so it's kind of difficult to do that with yourself. Like, I'm going to set you up with a consultation with me. I'm a
I'm
great guy.
great. I'm
I'm a
so
great guy.
funny. I'm so kind. You're going to love me.
Exactly. Super handsome, charming, you're going to love everything about me,
Yeah.
ripped, super lean, ripped. But yeah, like obviously you couldn't do that with yourself, but I think that if you can get your team to kind of do that, I think that's a really good thing. So with that being said, Angel, is there anything else that you want to add into this, or just on that topic that you think could be helpful for everyone?
Yes, actually. So obviously you can't hype yourself up too much, like you said, when you're on the call. So that's why it's so important, just to, like, that is literally their first impression of your company, whether they're having a conversation with you or they're having a conversation with, the office manager or something like that. Like, that is their very first impression. And you did a client success interview with some of our clients recently, Mario and Allie. And I remember Mario mentioned how, like, Allie is the one who mainly answers the phone because she has more of, like, a bubbly personality. She likes talking to people and stuff like that. And Mario mentioned that, every so often he'll answer the phone, but he has to, like, intentionally, get more talkative and, like, make himself sound like, a little bit more bubbly. Like, he has to intentionally exaggerate that, so that way that's how he comes across on the phone, because he's not naturally like that. And yeah, I think that's super important. Like, a lot of people may not have that type of personality, which is totally fine. But I think just being able to have that type of, like, self awareness and be like, okay, well, this is what I do need to do on the phone. I could hang up the phone and, go back to my normal personality, but I need to give a really good first impression. I need to, make myself sound like super excited to also work with this person, and bubbly and interested in meeting them and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting that he said that. And I think that would be really helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good point, not just accepting your personality for what it is and like being able to like turn it on and turn it off,
Hmm.
And even if you are acting a little bit as, cringy as that may seem, like if that's what you need to do, because deep down that if you do that, then it allows you to help more people, save more dogs, then it's kind of what you need to do, But I
Yep.
don't think it's acting in like a bad way. Like I don't think you're being like conniving or manipulative or anything like that. I think that you just realize you want to be perceived and received a certain way. And you don't want to just let these deals slip through your fingertips just because you're like a little bit you come across a little bit like rough around the edges when you first meet people or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think being able to, like, turn that on, but this is why, like, I have a sales course that all of our clients get access to, and I think in there, it's been a while since I recorded that, but I think a section in that is, like, even just talking about that, trying to be as bubbly as possible when you first get on the call with people. First impressions do matter, If you call a company and it's, like, this monotone dude who answers the phone, and he's like, "Hey, this is ABC dog training." Or he just even answers the phone and says hello. That's the
Mhm.
worst. When I hear that and someone like calls and they're like, hello, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, I cannot think of a better way to destroy the relationship than doing that. You know, I could
Yeah.
think of other ways that are more effective to destroy the relationship. If I'm being honest, like there's definitely more effective ways to do that, but that's up there for sure. Because
Yeah.
all you're doing with that is making people feel like, am I even in the right place? Did I call the right company? Like, did I just get some random person on the phone? So
Mhm.
that's the first thing. Whenever somebody calls you and you answer your phone, your name your business, how can I help you today? And
Yep.
then, even asking somebody a question like, hey, how's your week going? What do you guys got going on this week? I ask pretty much everybody that personally. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit nosy and I just kind of like to know what's going on with people. But I just feel like that's a really good segue into talking about different things in life other than just like the immediate reason that they called you.
Yep.
And that's a question that you would ask a friend. What do you got going on this week? So I almost kind of feel like that takes people a little bit off guard and they go like, what do I got going on this week? And then they just start telling you stuff like, oh, well, I took my daughter, just dropped her off at preschool and I have a Pilates class later today. And all of a sudden now you can kind of like work off of some of that information,
Mhm.
like, you do Pilates? Like, I've always wanted to try that. This isn't me talking, okay? Like, I've never actually wanted to try Pilates. Just want to be clear. Nothing, not that there's anything wrong with that, but you get the point, Or
Yeah.
if someone mentions their kids, I'll say to them, "How many kids do you have?" And then all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, I have 2 kids of my own."
Mhm.
How old are your kids? And you can kind of joke around about like the ages that they're at, or does it get any easier? It's been rough having a 3.5-year-old. What is it like when they're 4, 4.5? And so I just think
Yeah.
that like these are things that you can do to kind of bridge that gap. And again, then all of a sudden, like you do that, and then you're like, so like tell me about what's going on with your dog. And so then they've already built some trust with you. They start telling you about their dog. You have a conversation with them about that. Then it's easier to schedule that appointment because they feel like they know, like, and trust you because now they know things about your kids and your family and you know stuff about them.
Mhm.
And again, that know, like, and trust factor has been built or started to be built. And then from there, it's easier to get that consultation set and there's momentum going into it. Like
Mhm.
people are going to feel more comfortable with you and more comfortable paying you money if they're not just viewing you as like some guy or some girl who's trying to set a sales appointment with them, but they're looking at you as like a dad, a mom, a husband, a wife, like somebody who went to the same high school as them, somebody who grew up in the same town as them, someone who's interested in the same activities as them. You know what I mean? And then you
Yeah.
go and do that consultation and it just makes closing them that much easier. So,
Yeah, yeah, you literally just showed them that you're treating them like a human. You're focusing
right.
on, like, the human to human connection instead of just, like, super transactional right off the bat, not caring about a single thing other than, "Do you wanna schedule a consult? Or if not, here's the prices."
Exactly. Yeah. Well, with that being said, I'm going to wrap things up here because I know you and I both have calls we got to run to. I got to go meet up with a client who I think wants to. She worked with us a couple years ago, and I think she wants to start running ads again. So that's exciting.
Nice.
But yeah, so we're going to wrap things up here. But as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening and supporting as always. So we got some cool stuff happening. I just hired a new video editor today, so I'm hoping that's gonna really help with like ramping up like production value and different things that we got coming for the podcast. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.
Bye, guys.